Welcome to The Pivot Place. I'm your host, Victoria Coit, strategist, pivot advocate, and believer that your next breakthrough is just one shift away. Here, we dive into bold conversations with leaders, creatives, and changemakers, exploring the moments that redefine careers, businesses, and lives. Let's get into it. Brandon Triche is a Syracuse basketball legend who recently retired after a remarkable decade-long professional career in Europe. Starting every game during his 4-year collegiate career with the Orange, Brandon was instrumental in Syracuse's thrilling 2013 Final Four run, where he showcased the exceptional skill, leadership, and basketball IQ that would define his playing career. After leaving his mark on Syracuse, he built a respected professional career with top clubs in Italy, Greece, Dubai, and many other countries, adapting to new cultures while maintaining his fundamental values of hard work and dedication. Beyond his athletic achievements, Brandon is known for his thoughtful perspective on the game and his ability to connect with fans and inspire young players. His evolution from hometown hero to international competitor exemplifies the growth mindset and perseverance that defines true champions, making his story resonate not just with basketball enthusiasts, but with anyone who appreciates what it takes to excel at the highest level. His journey from the courts of Central New York to international arenas and now to new endeavors demonstrates his ability and determination to have been hallmarks of his success both on and off the court. Welcome, Brandon.
That was a beautiful intro. That might have been the best intro I ever had.
You like that?
Yeah, that was great.
That's what people say. That's what people say. So welcome to The Pivot Place.
I'm happy to be here.
Good.
This is actually the first podcast I ever done.
Ever?
Obviously, I did interviews and stuff like that, but like actual podcasts, I think this is definitely the first one.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. I love that. So where to start then? Where do we start? Let's just first start saying that you are from Syracuse.
Yeah, so I'm Brandon Triche, from Syracuse. Grew up on the south side of Syracuse. Of two parents, Melvin and Deborah Triche. They started doing better financially, so we moved to the suburbs, I think when I was 9.
Okay.
So grew up in like the JD district.
Okay. Okay. And do you remember that transition at 9?
I do, actually, because it was a lot different. The difference between going to Percy Hughes, which is I believe Syracuse Latin,
right,
and then the demographic of going to JD, where it's like mostly white kids. I definitely didn't talk that much growing up. So I seen that transition, obviously physically, but also mentally.
Okay. Yeah, I know that can be interesting. I sort of did the opposite, right? I came from Liverpool, which is a suburb, and then came to City School District and was like,
Yeah.
Wow. Okay. So you transitioned when you were 9. As we mentioned in your bio, you are known right now for playing basketball all throughout your life. When did you start playing basketball?
Man, so my uncle, Howard Triche, along with my dad, they all played throughout, Onondaga. Also Corcoran, and my Uncle Howard played at Syracuse as well from, I believe, the 84 to 87.
Okay.
So he was on the Final Four team. So basketball was always in my family. And at the time, my dad was playing 2 older brothers who also played. So whether I'm 2 or 3 and they had games, or my uncle was playing, my dad had a game, I was the kid that was like 3 or 4 that would run on the court and shoot,
Wow.
So I was actually kind of blessed as a young kid. For whatever reason, I grew up like fast. So at 4, I'm shooting the ball on the real rim. At 5, 6, I'm shooting 3-pointers. So I was like one of those like, wait, how old is he? I was that kid.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's dope.
Yeah.
So you would say that it just was part of your destiny.
Yeah, it was just natural. I think and I pick up things fast. And I think what was a blessing was I had 2 older brothers, right? And my dad made it a point, if Brandon can't go, y'all can't go.
Okay.
So maybe unfair to them because
good for you.
Because if I'm 4, then my older brother would be 7, and then my oldest brother would be 10. So now at 11, when he's 11, he's going to Kirk Park. He had to bring his 5-year-old little brother, and I had to keep up, So it kind of helped me out because now I started maturing a little bit faster just so I can keep up.
Okay. when did that start to build sort of like your competitive edge, or you've always felt like?
I just seen the excitement on people when they didn't know how old I was, and that drove me. Like, I didn't know I was that good until people kept saying it.
Okay.
So when I'm 6 or 7, I'm just keeping up with my middle brother because that was like more of our age group. So I'm like, all right, my friends is his friends. So he has a friend that's 9, 10, and 11, and I'm 5 and 6. So those are my friends too. So if we're like in the backyard playing, then I'm competing with them and then holding my own. So eventually as I grow and grow, it's like, I'm a little bit more advanced.
Right.
So my competitive edge, I don't think I looked at it like that. I just looked like we were on the same level, and I just happened to be younger.
Yeah, yeah. So we just jumped right into basketball, all right? But what the Pivot Place is really about is having these experiences in life that sometimes we don't recognize that change the trajectory of our lives, right? And it sounds like one is unknowingly you were being put in a path of basketball, which took you around the world. And I'm sure a lot of other things came and webbed off of that. Outside of basketball, who is Brandon? Like, what do you think that you would be doing if you weren't into athletics? Yes.
So I pretty much grew up a quiet kid, very like quiet, just observing the environment kind of person. I really kind of broke out of my shell probably like 25, 26. I'm just like, for instance, if I'd seen somebody and they didn't speak to me, I wouldn't say hello. Okay. Even if I knew them. Like but now if I see somebody, I'm gonna say hello. Hey, I might say it first before they say it to me. But if I was doing something outside of sports, I'm naturally, I have the ear for music. So like when it's like different, like I could think of a song and I can think of where I was at when I heard that song. Okay. I bought my first cassette tape at like 4 years old, 5 years old.
Okay, you're showing your age.
Yeah, it was DJ Cool.
Okay.
Yeah. I forget the name of the song, but I remember it was in Carousel Mall. It was a store called AIM, I believe it was called. And I remember them having tapes. I don't know why they had tapes, but they had tapes there. Okay. And it was like in a big bin. This is like 5 years old, 4 or 5 years old. It was like a bin of like a bunch of different tapes, DVDs and stuff like that. So, yeah.
So you just used to grab some?
Or not DVDs. It would have been like probably VCR tapes.
Yeah, VHS.
And so I looked and I grabbed that one. I don't know why I grabbed that one, and then from there, I was a kid that's 8 years old for Christmas. Dad, I want the CD player I want that. Okay. I want the speakers at 9. That's what I'm asking for.
Okay. So music, you're musically inclined. Would you consider, if you were in a different profession, would you be an artist? Would you be a producer?
Producer, for sure.
Okay. Yeah. And tell me a producer that you would liken yourself to.
I would say I like Kanye as how he produces. Okay. Because he produced, and I feel like I would probably been a producer who produced the music and then like rap as secondary or something like that. Try to figure out. But as far as me, like, okay, this song, this would be perfect with this person. This would be perfect with that person. Like, or this sounds like this. Okay. Or, when you hear a sample, you be like, wait, I know this sample. And then, like, I'm that person. Like, let me go Google it and stuff like that. So,
okay. Yeah. So, it sounds like let's play a little game. Okay. So, if you had to put together a song, as far as, like, a sample that hasn't been used before, that you have identified, with your keen ear to music, that, like, this would be a dope sample from old school music, what would that be?
That's funny because I was thinking of like samples and stuff recently, but not old school. When I think of old school, the only thing that's coming to my mind right now is Ice Cube. Okay. So
now you're making me feel really old when you say Ice Cube is old school. I thought you were gonna say something from like the 60s or the 70s.
Well, I'm thinking of NWA Ice Cube. Okay. I'm thinking 1990. So that's considered old school, right?
Okay, like, for you, cause
you could do in the We Be Clubbing, like somebody do a sample off of We Be Clubbing. Okay. That's a song that's coming to mind.
That's a fire song. Yeah. That's a fire song. Okay. And so you would be a producer. You would be Kanye-like, and you would be, producing music, but also writing lyrics.
Yeah, writing lyrics. Like I'm naturally good at poetry, So
that was my next question.
yeah.
Okay.
So putting words together, I'm at like, and I did notice that when I was like 7th grade, we used to do it like in school, and I would just think of something.
Okay.
So I don't know if it's part of me being like a Pisces or whatever, but my mind goes, like when you think of an idea, my mind goes here, left, right. It shoots everything out at once.
Okay.
You know what I mean? So when it comes to like writing papers, I'm able to I don't get like writer's block. I'm able to put everything on paper. Now me organizing it, that's when,
Yeah.
it's a little struggle sometimes. But when it comes to poetry, like I'm like a person, you give me a topic, give me 10 minutes, and you were like, wait, damn, this is really good.
Okay.
So that's when I started like, oh, wait, I'm actually pretty good at this. So that started maybe 6th grade, 7th grade. I think my dad has like one poem that I wrote that was called like Loving Basketball. So it was like basically about obviously the movie, it wasn't about the movie, but the title of the movie. But it's like comparing love and basketball. You know what I mean? So I don't remember how it go, but I think I wrote that 7th grade or something like that.
Okay, so we can catch you at like the open mic, maybe on a Java one night on a weekend or something, or you haven't explored that talent out loud yet?
Nah. It's just like one of those hidden talents.
Okay.
Like poetry, I think is a hidden talent. I think me like remembering certain music. So like obviously basketball always been my focus. So like I would tap in those things just a few times a year, if that makes sense.
Okay.
Yeah.
Got it. All right. So let's pivot a bit and talk about you leaving basketball, which you were just knee deep in for most of your life, or all of your life, really, and playing professionally overseas. What are some moments overseas that you sort of keep with you these days, of experiences that you've had, differences? The climate that we're in right now is just wild. And a lot of people have not been outside of the country. And unfortunately, a lot of people have not been outside of city of Syracuse, county of Onondaga, And so what would you like to share with folks about being in places like Dubai and Greece?
Yeah. So I was very immature, and I'll call it an American when it came to me traveling.
Yeah.
I would go places and try to find the most American thing to do versus just enjoy the place. So when I'm in Italy, I'm not doing no extra traveling. We had our games and we traveled to the cities and that's it. And I'm like, when I first got there, like my first year, I legit would, because it'd be a 6-hour difference. Okay. So let's say, for instance, if it's 12 a.m. in US or in the East Coast, it'd be like 6 a.m. over there. Okay. Right. So my first 3 months, I would stay up to like 4 a.m. It's Italy time, just so I could talk to people back home. Oh. And then I would have practice at 9 a.m., meaning I only got 4 hours of sleep. You know what I mean? So that took me maybe 2 months. It really took me until my dad came to visit. And then I kind of was like, all right, man, I have to kind of, I guess, grow up. And, as far as me enjoying Italy, it didn't take into the second year. So I was in Trento, Italy, my first year, which is a very healthy, clean city, not much to do. Second city was Rome. Okay. Rome is more touristy. They had students who were studying abroad from different U.S., so there's more Americans. They had more diverse foods and stuff like that. So I was like, okay, I can, I like this a lot better. Started to learn some of the language. So I was eating Italian food because obviously I had to. Right. But I wasn't even, trying to learn the language. I wasn't just, getting to know people. And that first year, I didn't even have like a working phone. My phone only worked during Wi-Fi. Oh. So my second year, I was like, all right, let me actually get, some service and things like that. But I'll say, just like to piggyback off what you were saying, I tell people all the time, you got to travel and things like that. I think I've been blessed to travel, and I didn't really notice this, and that's why I said I was immature. I didn't really think about this until I was like 28, 29. When I was 28, I actually came back to Italy. So I went to Italy a few years, tore my ACL, missed a year and a half, played NBA G League or D League for 1 year, Israel, different countries. Then I went back to Italy. Now, when I went back to Italy for my third time, I was in a small city, and now I was actually trying to talk to more of the local people more, now learn phrases and stuff like that. You know, because a lot of times when you go over there, when people say, "Oh wow, you wouldn't been to these places," yes, I've been to these places, but I've been there alone. Like my parents aren't there, my friends aren't there. Whether it's a girlfriend, they're not there. You know, so you're there alone. So you gotta like, you know, you go over there and you try to enjoy it the best you can.
Right.
And I think that's how people, you know, enjoy themselves. But for me, when I got there, let's say August 26th, 27th, wherever the case may be, I'm counting down the days I go back home.
Yeah, so you're not present.
Yeah, I'm not present. I'm just playing basketball. I'm doing my job, sleep, wake up morning, basketball, do my job, boom, sleep. So it's not to me, it wasn't that much fun until I went to certain countries. I'm like, all right, let me enjoy this.
Okay.
Let me try to enjoy this the best way I can. But to your point, you have to travel. You got to see different places, see different things, and also just be happy about where you at. You know what I mean? And it can start with, you know, being from Syracuse, New York, and getting to Rochester, getting to Utica, getting to Buffalo, you know, and then from there, you know, spread out.
Right. So I want to touch on a little bit about what you said. You said you were alone there and you learned a lot, you know, but for the most part, you weren't very present, right? What did you learn about yourself? Like, what do you feel like the most impactful lesson that you learned about who Brandon was as a just person there that you keep with you?
Yeah, so I grew up pretty quiet
Yeah.
and kind of like okay with being by myself. But for instance, I went to Syracuse. So although I kind of stuck to myself even at Syracuse University, I knew I was home in Syracuse.
Yeah.
So the city of Syracuse brought me comfort of being home. So it was a little bit different. Now I'm away from home and I don't know anybody. You know what I mean? So it definitely was, and I won't say depressed, but I was highly, I guess, like my frequency was low, I would say.
Okay.
Because I was just like, over time you alone and you keep being alone and you just feeling alone, even though you like got your devices, which is like your technology and stuff like that. Like I was watching every show possible. I was trying to keep up with everything that was going on in the US.
Okay.
But still, you know, you're alone. You're not doing your normal routine.
Yeah.
So what I learned was that since I was quiet, I was being observant and I was just picking different things up from different people as far as like personality traits, which is how to be more personable and things like that. So once I did choose to like get out of my shell and like show more people my personality, I was ready for it because I was kind of like studying other people and things like that. And okay, if I'm going to be funny, I'm going to be funny like this. Or if I'm going to talk to a crowd of people, I'm going to talk to a crowd of people like this. If I'm going to, let's say, engage the whole crowd, I'm going to engage it like this. So I was kind of like downloading things to now when I'm, let's say in my early 30s, people are like, wait, this is not the Brandon I knew from when he was early 20s, stuff like that. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Excuse me. So during this time of seclusion almost, right, you were able to like go to your own version of college, which was like communications college almost, right? And start engaging with people in a different type of way. Was there anything inside of you that was leery about that change and that shift in you and how other people were going to perceive it when you sort of got back to the folks that are, you know, used to you or know you as the way that they did know you?
I guess it's not because everybody's trying to pull it out of me. So like,
so it's like about time.
Yeah, when I was in college, like I had two roommates. With one of my close friends now, James Sutherland, and he's very goofy, animated, like almost ADHD. So that's a lot of my friends are like that, are super hyper, and I'm like the calm one.
Okay,
you know what I mean. So he was always trying to like put me in different situations to see how I react. You know what I mean. So all right, I'm gonna get him to say something. I'm gonna get him to react or whatever the case may be. So he'll find fun in it. You know what I mean? So now like he kind of, but like with him or like certain people that I know, obviously I give you all my energy. So it'd be different. But then now if you try to get me to be that person around a group of people, then I'll fall back into the shell.
Okay.
Like, you know what I mean? Like, all right, you know, so there's different people who, you know, obviously people that I'm close with, my brothers and, my close friends, they know how I am, my parents and stuff, like cousins and stuff. But, yeah, so I guess people will only be surprised if I didn't really let them in.
Okay.
You know what I mean?
Okay. Yeah. So that evolution of you was just like a long time coming. Like we knew.
Yeah.
Knew.
Yeah. And even to speed up to what I'm doing now, which is like, which was so random. I was really good at public speaking in a big group.
Okay.
But when it was 2 or 3 people, like I would get more nervous because it's like, okay, I could see them looking at me and they're like, so me being able to talk to 3 people, I would get more nervous than if I'm speaking into like a big crowd because I didn't have to look at somebody eye to eye. And even now, I struggle when it's eye to eye, like my ability to look at you eye to eye and actually remember what I'm about to say. Because then I'm like, okay, I'm looking at somebody eye to eye. And my mind's like, okay, I'm looking at you eye to eye. And then I'll just forget what I'm saying. Like, all right, let me stare at in space and like actually remember what I'm saying.
What is that? What would you say that is?
I think that's part of, I don't know. I think it, comes up, I guess, I think it's a level of like insecurity. It got to be lack of confidence, right? So once you're really assured of yourself, then like, and that's how like what I'm feeling now. So as I put myself in more positions to, I guess, be confident in the things I'm not as good at, now like it's a strength.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, it's a muscle. I love that you touched on that. And I think that speaks to almost that piece of you that was introspective all of that time for you to even be able to say, as a man, as a Black man, like perhaps that has, a touch of insecurity. Because I encounter a lot of people and a lot of times they wouldn't say that. They would say that it was something else. Like, well, I just don't like looking people in the eye, or something like that. So touching on that is a beautiful thing. I'll give you that right now. But I would also say that what would you say to other young men who aren't ready to reach that level of self-awareness to not only know that about themselves, that because I feel like we're witnessing your growth right now, right? I would never, number one, think that this is your first podcast. I wouldn't think that. I wouldn't think that you had, that you would be open to talk about insecurities, right? And so being an enigma in that way, what advice would you give to other young men that are struggling with admitting or tapping into who they really are, not only tapping in, but to say, here's some areas where I can grow and I'm going to do that?
I mean, I think it's tough because in general, you can build yourself up or you can break yourself down, right?
Preach.
And a lot of people don't really know who they are. So they spend their whole life trying to figure out, like, who am I really, who am I?
Absolutely.
Like the real person I am when the lights is dark, when I put my head on the pillow, who am I?
Yeah.
Like, was I just a character the whole day? You know what I mean? And like, if I was a character, because what they say, fake it till you make it, or, dress for the job that you want, but you got to be realistic of who you are as a person. So then you actually can grow, because if you got this mask on the whole time, how are you really growing if you're being fake to the public and things like that?
Right.
So when you were younger, so when I'm younger, right? So I think some of my insecurities came from, right? When I was growing up, I had like bad teeth, right? So I didn't really want to smile.
Okay.
So I would somehow not laugh or hide it a little bit more. So I think that, so even though I was really good at basketball, and you think, okay, you're confident because you're the best, I was always insecure in a way when it came to other stuff, which would be which maybe I didn't talk as much because I'm like, all right, if I talk more, people see my teeth, they able to joke on it and stuff like that.
Right, now I got to kill them. Like,
yeah, so you putting yourself in, what it is being vulnerable, I guess.
Yeah.
So a lot of insecurities come from being vulnerable.
Yeah.
Like and then the only way to get over those insecurities, you got to be vulnerable. You got to let it is what it is, and how can I grow from it? So I think for anybody growing up, you got to understand what you want to actually get better at, and hopefully it has to do with your come from within, not what other people say about you, but how you actually feel about yourself, which is it's a tough. right? We all say, like, I don't care what no one says, but we look on comments and stuff like that, and boom, we're triggered.
Right.
So if that was true, you should never be triggered, because you should have this block, this cage up around people, meaning that they can't affect you. If that was true. But if people can affect you and trigger you, that means how strong is your discipline. So I'll say just one, if you're insecure, be vulnerable and just try to get over it sooner than later. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like I wish that 10 years ago I was in this position of me being vulnerable enough to just talk and have these conversations and stuff like that with a large group of people, because now when I'm in my mid-30s, I'm trying to network and I'm doing a pretty good job at it. But what if I was that personable person in my mid-20s where I'm able to network?
Yeah.
Before, I didn't care about it. Like I met so many I tell people this all the time. I met so many incredible people and never said multiple words to them. Just from being at Syracuse, being a basketball player, you meet incredible people, rich people. You meet rich with knowledge, rich with, obviously with their finances and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And I would just say, hey, how you doing? I would never ask no questions. And, my brother Mike, he's like pretty much an entrepreneur. He's a computer engineer. He works for Microsoft. So he's always a person trying to like have a hustle for something. So he works for Microsoft, but he's literally like resell tickets like as a hustle, which is crazy. So he's always telling me like, yo, like you have a connection to this person, message them, say this to them, ask them a question, something, you never know. And I'm like, for what? Why would I? Why would I do, and now I'm like seeing it more. But he was telling me that maybe 10 years ago, you know what I mean?
Yeah. Absolutely. We had another guest on here, Jamar Clark, and we talked about his brand and just being a brand. And it sounds like at that time you didn't really see yourself as a brand. You were doing what you came second nature to you, which was playing basketball. Right.
So that's when my brother always spoke to me. Brand, build this up. What if you want to do the camps and stuff? If you want to train, like have a business, how to train, like do it in the summers. You have the name. You have a good name in Syracuse. You play basketball. Build it up. And my insecurity was, are people going to show up? You know what I mean?
Which is common.
Am I quote unquote hot right now? Like, so right now, and I think it's even like a struggle too, is like, right now, my goal is to build my brand as far as touch different people around the different like cities, whether it's Syracuse, Cortland, Rochester, affect different people, right? Have little camps, help out.
Yeah.
And then build my way up. So then now when I do have my own thing, that people show up. You know what I mean? And that's by doing the work, but also that's by being, confident and understanding the path, understanding the grind, I guess.
Yeah, yeah. So what I think is so amazing about life, right? It's like we grow and we always say like, I wish I would have knew this 10 years ago, right? But all of that is just like, as long as there's breath in our body, we can do it now, right? And apply all that knowledge to now. So I'm glad you touched on that. Like, where are you now? It sounds like right now you are assisting with some camps around the state, upstate New York, but your real goal is to have your own brand and your own camp. But don't let me put words in your mouth. Let me know what are you doing now, and what do you hope to tap into in the future?
I'm aspiring to be like a assistant coach on college level.
Okay.
And it's because I feel like I strive at skill development and mentorship.
Okay.
So my ability to relate to the kids, I think it is better suited for college level kids. Now, I've been doing skill development since high school. I used to like go to these like national camps.
You mean you yourself been doing?
Personally,
okay.
Right? So I used to go to these national camps and I would come home and I would do those same drills that I learned in wherever, whether it's Chris Paul camp or Reebok camp, and I would do that with my friends. So they still get the same skill development as me. And this is in 10th grade.
Okay.
9th grade, I come back, yo, we doing this, we doing that. All right, yo, we got to run the hills, we got to do this and this. So I always had that. And since I was a little bit better than everybody else, I did work actual basketball camps. I would like work CBA camp like during spring break or winter break. I'll be working it instead of playing because obviously my level was a little bit higher.
Okay.
So I always worked basketball camps and stuff like that. So to speed up to now, after I, retired, I took a year off where I was just traveling and going places because I never really went anywhere that wasn't basketball related. So I've been to all these cool places, but never seen none of these places. Like, been to all these countries, but don't know what none of these countries look like. And so as I started training kids and stuff like that, when I came back, I was just doing it for free. I was like, can I take the top kids in the area? How can I mentor them and help them train? So that's what I started doing. Speed up to, and then eventually I wanted to do a grad assistant at Syracuse University. That kind of fell through at the end because now kids are getting paid, right? They're getting NIL money.
Yeah.
And because of that, they cut all the grad assistant jobs just because that money that was going to go to us is going to go to the kids. From there, I had to pivot.
Yes.
I really had
Talk
to pivot.
about it.
Yeah, I really had to pivot because I'm like, okay, now I got to use my networking skills because I thought for 6 months, okay, I'm going to be a grad assistant at Syracuse. Now I'm like, what do I do now?
Right.
So now I was like, all right, now I start, using my networking skills, and I didn't necessarily have great practice because I never really needed it. I just one contact, cool, good. For 11 years playing pro basketball, my resume spoke for itself. That's why I was able to get a job, But now I'm pivoting, trying to figure out what's going to be my next career and how do I get to being an assistant coach, which was the grad assistant, but now, okay, let me start from the bottom.
Okay.
Right. I was able to connect with a organization called Clinic Kids. Right. So one of my coaches growing up was Mickey Walker. He coached a lot of people, literally for since the 80s. So he had this camp. He met a guy. Well, he coached a guy who had the organization Clinic Kids, which is an organization that bridges mental health and basketball. Right.
I love that.
Yes, and they go into the inner city schools, work as a after school program. And for the fall, I was just meeting those guys, and we went into 8 schools. So it was Blodgett, McKinley Brighton, Grant, Weeks, Webster, Delaware, Seymour, and Dr. King. So those 8 schools, right?
Okay.
So basically going into those schools, organizing the kids as an after school program, take them through basketball stations, but then there's also a mental health part to it, which could be breathing, affirmations, meditation, yoga. So all of that stuff.
That's amazing.
And this is like for, kids middle school all the way down to like 2nd and 3rd grade.
Yeah.
And so I started working on that. And that's because what happens, here's the thing with basketball, right? For 30 years, I had a lot of purpose playing basketball. From 4 and up, I knew basketball is going to make me feel good. It's going to make me feel bad. It's going to make me feel sad. It's going to make me feel like I'm on the top of the earth. You know what I mean? And then obviously, when you're really good at basketball, you feel at the top of the earth a lot longer.
Right.
You know what I mean? It gives you a lot more. You feel good about yourself, and other people feel good about you, which then make you feel better about yourself even more. When that ends, where do I get that from? Right? Where do I get my adrenaline rush from? Yeah. Where do I get my purpose? Now I'm like, what do I do naturally? Because I don't want one thing for me, I don't want anything to feel like a job. When I was playing basketball, although I was getting paid, I didn't feel like a job. In college sometimes it can through politics and stuff like that, or even overseas through politics. But for the most part, it doesn't feel like a job. And when I train kids who love it, basketball, like I love it, it doesn't feel like a job. So then that's why I started doing it for free. So then now I start training, and I'm like, how can I best make money but also give back at the same time?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So that's kind of like where I'm at right now. So I'm a part of the Clinic Kids program.
Okay.
It started in New Rochelle, moved to Syracuse. Now I'm up for facilitating. Is out of 3 people up for facilitating the Rochester and Buffalo. So I'll be possibly running those ones for upstate, just because those guys come from New York. They don't want to travel, upstate every week. So that's the clinic is. And then also my dad is the president of YUOP now, which is So because of that,
excuse me.
I thought of the idea of like clinics. So we're doing like an introduction clinic for 5 to 8 year olds right now, which I got today later.
Okay.
So they had the age groups, which is crazy to me because I'm like 5 to like 16. I'm like, you got 5-year-olds playing like up and down and they don't know how to play. So it's like, well, instead of it being a league, how about I run the clinic? So now I'm kind of helping the kids out. So then now when they get 7 and 8, they actually know how to play and understand how to play.
Okay.
You know what
and
I mean?
then roll into.
So that's what I'm doing. So as far as the camps go, I started kind of like building it up because I started going to high schools. I would go into a high school, right? And they'll have the basketball team for their preseason and I'll train, like I'll do a pro training and train a team. I'm like, okay. I train 10 people. Okay, no. Like, because now when you start to navigate, whether it's one-on-one, 2 kids, 3, it's all different. Now, if you train 6 kids or you train 10 kids and there's only one instructor, and then you got to be able to speak to everybody, right? Keep all 10 engaged. Then it just everything started rolling. Once that happened,
you got into your flow state again.
Exactly.
Nice.
So I end up meeting with a young lady from up north, and she thought of that it would be. She seen what I was doing like through like actually Instagram. And it's like, yeah, you should run a camp here. I was like, can I? Like, is it possible? You know, like, yo, like they would love it. They would eat it up. The first camp we had was 95 kids.
That's amazing.
And I was like, whoa, okay. You know, because I wasn't sure. You know what I mean? So once that happened, we did 2 of the camps up there. So I kind of like know how to run camps now. Obviously, you get better and better. You know, you want to, be at the top of your game. But yeah. So in the summer, I actually have a camp, a Nike camp that I'm running.
In Syracuse? Okay.
It's going to be the end of June.
Okay.
But we still ironing out the details for that.
Okay. So we'll put a pause and a pin right there. One, I will follow Brandon on Instagram at
BT Athletics 315.
Okay.
So that's like BTATHETICS 315.
We'll tag him too. We'll tag him. And then also get folks that information on the Nike camp because I believe that's going to be wildly successful and really set a lot of kids up for success. And the other thing is we always ask our guests to end with their favorite quote. Can you think of what your favorite quote is?
My favorite quote? Man, you should have gave me a... I got like a favorite...
Anybody could have said it. Your grandma, anybody.
I don't know if this is a quote, but failure is not an option, which is FINAO. So I would put that on, like, when I was in college, I would put that on my sneakers.
Okay.
Yeah, like failure is not an option, right? So it's your ability to... So I'm a really positive thinker. So even if the worst thing happened, I would think of it as a moment and not who I am. You know what I mean? So if I miss a shot or I don't get a job, I'm like, okay, dang, that sucks. But that's a moment. That doesn't describe who I am as a person. You know what I mean? So when I think of failure is not an option, I think positive that I'm able to get through things and even if I fail now, I won't fail later.
Absolutely. Well, thank you so much, Brandon.
Yeah,
it was an honor to be your first podcast. Hopefully not your last.
Yes, thanks for having me.
Absolutely.
Yes.
Take care.